This is my 2005 SC 91. It has had a long and hard life, and for the last 5 years or so it's sat in the loft in the front of my Model Tech Dragon Lady, which is due for a refurb. So I thought I'd start with the engine. I have to be honest, I have not looked after this engine at all well. I never put after-run oil in it. Probably the last time it flew, it probably went away still with some fuel in it. So it's in a hell of a state. Everything on it's seized up at the moment. So the piston is moving slightly, but I don't want to push it round because the bearings will be gummed up with dried castor oil. The carburetor is seized solid. The exhaust, you can see it's mounted sideways, this in the model, and all the fuel runs down the exhaust and has baked itself on there. So what I'm going to do today is hopefully free up all the moving parts, give it lots of methanol and then lots of engine oil, and see if we can get everything moving. Lubricate the top end, lubricate the cam bearings, hopefully lubricate the bearings inside, and then see if we can bench run it. If it runs okay and the bearings sound noisy, then we'll replace the bearings in it. But I'm not going to do a full strip down on it because unless there's something seriously wrong with it, I don't think it warrants it at this point. But we'll see if we can get it running today. I think the first job really is to get the exhaust off, and I think I might stick that in the ultrasonic cleaner and see if we can remove some of this dried on varnish. It may not touch it. I mean, this is, like I say, 2005, it's a 15-year-old engine. It has run for hundreds of hours. It really was my #1 go-to model for years. Okay, the carburetor's come off. There's an O-ring just in the top that mounts to the inlet manifold. I might have a look in my stash, see if I've got a new one. It doesn't feel particularly supple. I'm just going to give the carb a squirt of WD to try and loosen it up for disassembly. Okay, there's a gasket on here. I'm not going to try and remove it because I think it'll disintegrate. What I am going to do is make sure there's some movement in the going to oil that. Okay, so at top dead centre I've got a little bit of play in each of these, although one has far more than the other. The exhaust feels there's quite a bit more slop, so I will check those valve clearances before we run the engine again. Okay, this is the cam cover. I want to check out the bearings more than anything, make sure they're lubricated. Okay, so that is glued well and truly in place. I've tried tapping it with a plastic screwdriver handle, but I'm getting nothing. So I'm going to apply a bit of gentle heat. Gotcha. Okay, got some movement there. I'm not sure if the gasket's going to survive, but at least the heat has softened the old castor oil. Just gently walked it off with a bit of lubricant on there. Bearing 1 camshaft. One bearing I have access to actually feels nice and smooth. There's no graunchiness to it, and it's rolling freely. So I'll lubricate that, and I'll try and get lubricant down to the one behind the other side of the camshaft as well. Just have to assume it's in a similar condition. This is just, it's almost a press fit. Ooh, where's my gasket? Is it intact? Okay, so we've got access to the bearing. See the WD-40 has made its way in there through the cam housing. I'm going to lubricate that properly. The engine's had a good WD-40 bath. Everything seems to be moving freely. It's not sticky now, and I've rinsed out all the interior of any crud. This will get an engine oil in all the key areas before it's reassembled. But next we're going to do the carburetor, which is still seized solid. Stuck in a mug of boiling water for 5 minutes and it's freed it up. I didn't bother ultrasonically cleaning it. I was able to clean it to a satisfactory standard by hand, especially at this stage, because we want to know if the engine needs a full dismantle anyway. So for today's purposes I think this hand clean will be more than sufficient. Lovely. Okay, the O-ring in here is toast. It's solid and broke as soon as I tried to get it out. So I haven't got any metric size O-rings, but I'm going to see if I've got an imperial one that roughly approximates that. That is a pretty damn good equivalent. It might be a smidge smaller, but I think it will be fine for what we need it for. Excellent. Well, that feels much better. You can actually feel the drag on the O-ring. Very good. Pleased with that. Let's get a bit of oil in there for startup. Right, let's button it up. I'm just looking at the valve clearances. On the inlet I've got more than 0.2, and that should be 0.1 of a millimetre, but it's less than 0.25. And on the exhaust I've got 3. 3 is a sliding fit, so that is 3 times larger than it should be. So I need to adjust those down now. She's now in her test stand with the prop fitted. We've got a 14.6 on there, which is the one that it's been flying within the model. We're plumbed in with the tank. We've got a control rod to the carburetor. Flicking it over by hand, there doesn't seem to be a ton of compression, but this is a ringed engine, so they do build up pressure as they spin over.